There are questions that don't play fair. They don't come with neat answers or tidy endings. Instead, they slip into your mind, twist themselves around, and leave you wondering if reality is really what you think it is. Philosophers have been chasing questions like this for centuries. They call them thought experiments. But don't picture dusty libraries or professors arguing in endless circles. That's not what these are. Think of them instead as stories, scenarios, strange little puzzles that sit right on the edge of imagination and reality. These thought experiments won't tell you what to believe, but what they will do is force you to ask yourself that question. To stop and wonder, what would I do, and what does that say about me and the world? Some of these thought experiments deal with morality, some with identity, and others take aim at even deeper mysteries. They will make you ask yourself if happiness, consciousness, or any experience in our entire lives can ever really be explained. They're strange, unsettling, and all leave their mark. So here's the setup of Kavka's Toxin puzzle. A billionaire comes to you with an offer. $1 million in cash, no strings attached. All you have to do is this. Tonight, you have to form the genuine intention to drink a vial of Toxin tomorrow afternoon. That's it. You don't even have to follow through. The second the clock strikes midnight, the money is yours, whether or not you actually drink it the next day. Sounds easy, right? But here's the problem. When tomorrow comes, you'll already have the money. So why would you drink the toxin? You'd be doing something harmful to yourself that you wouldn't need to do. Rationally, you wouldn't and shouldn't drink it. Which leaves the question, can you genuinely intend to do something that you know, when tomorrow comes, you'll have no reason to do? This is Kavka's Toxin puzzle. It isn't about the money, or even about the toxin itself. It's purely about intention. Can human beings trick themselves into holding a belief they know is false? Can you bend your mind into a shape that your rational brain insists is impossible? Think about it a little further. To succeed, you'd have to convince yourself on a deep level that you're going to drink that toxin. Not just say it or pretend. You'd have to believe it. Because if you don't, the billionaire knows, and you don't get the prize. Some philosophers argue it's impossible. Intention, they say, can't be faked. You can't just snap your fingers and decide to believe something that runs against your own logic. Others wonder if maybe it is possible. That it's possible to use tricks of self-deception. The way actors immerse themselves in a role and become the person they are playing. Or the way someone convinces themselves that starting a diet tomorrow is the same as having already started it. But is that true intention, or just theater? Kavka's Toxin puzzle forces us to stare into the gap between thought and action, between what we want to will ourselves to do and what our rational brain allows us to believe. And maybe that's why it's so unsettling. Because when you strip it down, Kavka's Toxin isn't just about philosophy, it's about us. About how well we know ourselves and how much control we really have over our own minds. Imagine this scenario. 2 sailors are shipwrecked. Their ship is gone, sunk in the same sea that surrounds them in every direction. They're struggling in the waves when one of them finds a wooden plank floating nearby, possibly their only chance at survival. But here's the problem. The plank can only hold one person, so if both climb on it sinks. One sailor grabs onto it, the other reaches for it too. And in that moment of desperation, the first sailor pushes the second away. One survives and one drowns. Now comes the question, is this murder or is it survival? This is the plank of Carneades, an ancient thought experiment that's haunted philosophers for centuries. On the surface, it feels straightforward because of course the sailor wanted to live. Who wouldn't? But the act, the choice to push someone to their death, carries weight. If it happened on land, in daylight, we'd call it murder. So why does the situation in the ocean change the rules? Some argue it's simply self-defense. If survival is on the line, morality bends with the situation. Others say no, that the plank doesn't absolve anyone. It's still a murder. The sailor killed another human being, plain and simple, even if it was to save their own life. Underneath it all, the story forces us to admit how fragile morality can feel when survival is at stake. Principles we believe in, societal and moral codes we think we'd follow, can collapse in the instant the literal or metaphorical water rises around us. The plank of Carneades doesn't just ask the question of what would you do in this situation. It asks what would happen afterward. Could you survive the sea only to drown in your own guilt, or would your mind find a way to justify it? To call it necessity to survive and move on? There's no clear answer, and that's the point. The plank is just a piece of wood. The real test is us. There's a story about an old ship, a famous one, belonging to the hero Theseus. For years, the ship was admired, preserved, and meticulously maintained. But wood rots, ropes fray, nails rust, paint fades. So piece by piece, the boat's caretakers replaced it. A new plank here, a new sail there. Decade after decade, repairs continued until every single part of the ship was swapped out for a new piece. Now the question is, would it still be the same ship? Some say yes, of course. It's carried the same name, the same history, the same identity all along. Continuity is what makes it Theseus's ship. But now imagine someone took all the discarded pieces, the original planks, nails, and ropes, and rebuilt them into another ship. Now there are two ships both claiming to be the ship of Theseus. Which one is the real thing? This is where the thought experiment sharpens into something more personal. Because the ship isn't just a ship. It's a metaphor for people. Every cell in the human body is eventually replaced. Over years, we very literally become new people, at least physically. Except we don't feel this happening. It's a continuous process. So what makes you, well, you? The parts, the story of you, or the memory of who you've been. The ship of Theseus isn't really about wood or nails. It's about identity, about whether we're defined by what we're made of, or by the thread of continuity that ties one moment of our life to the next. And that question doesn't have an anchor. It drifts, like a ship on open water. Imagine a machine that can give you anything you want. The perfect life, perfect happiness, perfect adventures, love, success. Whatever you decide, the machine will make it feel completely real. Once you're plugged in, you'll never know it isn't a machine. To you, it will be reality. It will be your life. Would you step inside? This is philosopher Robert Nozick's experience machine. At first, it sounds tempting. Why wouldn't you choose a life of endless joy? No pain, no failure, no heartbreak. Just the story you want, exactly how you want it. But it's all an illusion. None of it actually happens. You won't really climb the mountain or fall in love or write the best-selling novel. You'll only experience the feeling of those things. So what matters more? The experience itself or the truth behind it? Some say happiness is the goal of life. And if the machine delivers it, then why hesitate to jump in? Others argue that we want more than pleasure. We want authenticity, struggle, and the satisfaction of knowing that what we achieve is real, even if it comes with pain. Nozick believed most people would reject the machine, because deep down, we don't just want to feel alive, we want to be alive. The experience machine leaves us with an uncomfortable thought. If happiness alone isn't enough, then what is it we're really searching for? This story is about a scientist named Mary. Mary is brilliant. She knows everything about the science of color, how light works, how the eye processes wavelengths, how the brain interprets what we see. Every detail, every fact, every theory. But Mary has lived her entire life inside a black and white room. She's never actually seen color with her own eyes. Then one day she steps outside. She looks at a red rose for the very first time. The question is this: did Mary learn anything new? If she did, if seeing red gave her knowledge she couldn't have gained from all the books, equations, and theories, then that means there's more to experience than just physical facts. There's something about consciousness, about what it feels like, that science alone can't capture. This is Frank Jackson's knowledge argument. And it's so thought-provoking because it hits so close to home. We know the mechanics of sound waves, but does that explain what it's like to hear a violin in the dark? We can describe dopamine and neurons, but does that explain what it's like to fall in love? Mary's story asks whether there's a gap between knowledge and experience, whether consciousness is more than just the firing of neurons. But it doesn't give us the answer. It just leaves us with the image of a scientist stepping out of her black and white world, staring at a red rose, and realizing that no matter how much we know, there are still mysteries that can only be experienced. You are tasked with designing the rules for a brand new society. You hold the power to create its laws, determine its institutions, and shape the opportunities and privileges of its citizens. But there's a catch. You have no idea what position you will occupy in this society. You might be rich or poor, healthy or sick, highly educated, or without schooling. In this thought experiment, you are stripped of all personal knowledge about your own social status, talents, or identity. This is the essence of philosopher John Rawls's veil of ignorance, a thought experiment he introduced in his 1971 book, A Theory of Justice. Rawls asks us to imagine making decisions about justice and fairness from behind this veil, and by removing self-interest, the veil forces impartiality. Under the veil, Rawls argued, rational actors would create a society that protects the most vulnerable. They would ensure equal basic liberties for all, fair equality of opportunity, and rules that maximize the welfare of those at the bottom of the social ladder. Because once the veil is lifted, any of us could find ourselves in that position. A society that is just for the least advantaged is a society that is safe and fair for everyone. The veil of ignorance challenges the way we think about fairness. It asks uncomfortable questions, like how would we structure wealth, education, or healthcare if we could end up anywhere in society? What rules would we agree to if no one knew whether they would be a billionaire, a blue-collar worker, or a homeless person? Critics argue that Rawls' model is overly idealistic. People rarely make decisions without considering their own self-interest, and some question whether it truly leads to practical policies. Yet the veil remains a powerful tool in ethics, law, and political theory. It forces us to step outside our own perspective and confront the raw question: what does it mean to be fair when you do not know who you are in society's social structure? In a world rife with inequality and bias, the veil of ignorance continues to inspire debate, reflection, and the pursuit of a society that values justice not just for some, but for all. It's a reminder that fairness is not about privileging ourselves. It is about imagining life from the vantage point of anyone, anywhere, at any level.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.